Okay, so I'm about to demonstrate to you guys how to change one of our listings where it's my listing or your listing, and it's been pending and we just closed on the property and we need to change the status of the listing to sold in the MLS. So HAR gives you 3 days to do that. It really gives you 72 hours to get that done. If you do not, if you don't get it done within 72 hours, sometimes they don't catch you, but if they do catch you, they're going to fine you. So in a perfect world, you would come in here immediately as soon as this property was closed and you'd set it to close, but sometimes they give you a few days for the admin work to be done in your office. So if you miss that 72-hour window, they don't care and they're going to fine you, and it's happened to me several times. So also sometimes the buyer will go look on the MLS and see that the house is still active and they freak out. Then you've got a buyer's agent calling you like, can you please change that property to sold? So anyway, first thing you do, you go to har.com. You're going to log into your account, go into the members only portal. From here, we go into matrix, and now you go to add edit. It's going to pull up the listings that you've got in the system. And for this particular one, it was Onion Creek. That's what closed for us yesterday. Right here, you can look and see the current status. So we have it as pending continue to show. If my sellers will allow it, I leave all my properties continue to show up until closing. That really lets other agents know that if they've got somebody that's interested in putting in a backup offer, we will absolutely, we're open to that. So that's what pending continue to show really means. Especially if you're in the midst of a deal and you get a couple weeks into it and you realize the buyer their financing is kind of shaky, you might want to come in here and change it to continue to show, so that will attract potential buyers and get some activity back on the house. Although once it goes to this status, usually showings just tend to completely cease. Anyway, from here, you go to change to sold, and the next thing that pops up is all of the information. Shows that I'm the listing agent. This is the list price, and we are going to put in the sale price. Sale price was $755. And a side note on this, just always remember that Texas is a non-disclosure state, and that means you do not have to tell anybody what anything sold for, and neither does the seller or the buyer. And always give them a little bit of information at closing and remind them of this. Just tell them Texas is a non-disclosure state. If you get a phone call or anyone's trying to ask you what you paid for this house or what you sold it for, you do not have to tell them anything. You can tell them $1. So the reason for this is Texas really protects people's homesteads, and we don't want the county knowing what you paid for this house, because if they can get you to confirm what you paid for it, this is what you're going to get taxed on. If they don't know this number, they're going to do a county tax appraisal, which is a drive-by appraisal, and that number typically comes in under this, and the lower number is what the owner will pay taxes on. And we always want that number to be lower, so it saves them money in taxes. So that's one of the reasons you don't let people know what this number is. Anyway, and if anyone wants to know this information, the only way they can get this, it's considered micro data. The only way they can get it is if they ask an agent who has access to the MLS to pull it up. From here, you are going to go in, we put the close date, which was actually yesterday for us. Was it a co-op sale? What this means is, was the other agent on the other side of the deal, were they also in my same brokerage? So I'm the listing agent. If another agent in Living Houston represented the buyer, then I would put yes here. However, the other agent, the buyer's agent, she was with a completely different brokerage, so no, this is not a co-op sale. Now we're going to go over here to seller paid closing costs and repairs paid by seller. These are two separate entities. Where you run into some confusion here is sometimes if the seller is asking for repairs, sometimes if the buyer is asking for repairs, sometimes the seller will credit them the amount they're asking for, and they will do it in the form of closing costs. So if that is the case, if it's listed on the contract that the seller gave the buyer any form of closing cost, that is what you enter here. So let's say originally the contract said that the buyer wanted $3,000 in closing costs, and then after repairs and negotiations they wanted another $2,000 for repairs, but they're going to take it all in the form of closing costs. Then that would be $3,000 plus $2,000, so you'd put $5,000 here for closing costs. If they were getting the repairs paid another way, which the seller could be paying an invoice at closing, or maybe the seller paid a repair person directly, you would log that here. For this particular deal, there were no closing costs paid and no repairs paid. So we're going to put a 0. You have to put something in these yellow spaces, even if it's a 0, or it will not let you move forward. The title was paid by the seller. And did the selling agent represent the buyer? So the selling agent was me. And did I represent the buyer? No. The sold terms right here, this is optional, and that's why it's white instead of yellow. But if you do know the type of loan or financing or how it was paid for, go ahead and put it. It does help other agents in the future when they pull these up for comps. It helps sometimes to see how it was paid for. So this was a conventional loan. Right here, it gives you slots to put the buyer and the seller's email. I absolutely never do this. I'm not going to put my client's email in here, nor am I going to put somebody else's client's email in here. So I always leave these blank. One of the reasons these slots are here is because at the end of this deal, once it's closed in the system, it's going to ask you if you want to email your client a survey for them to take. And it will send it to this email. But you don't have to put the email here. You can wait later down the line and put that email in later on. And that way you don't have somebody's private information forever stored in the MLS. Right here, this is the selling agent's MLS ID. That's correct. It's already in there. It was populated from when it went pending. Sometimes they will ask you to change this, especially if the buyer's agent works on a team and they have a team lead. Sometimes you'll be asked to change this and put the team lead's agent ID right here before closing, because they want that production to go under the team lead's ID. There was not a selling team. There was not a co-selling agent. What this means right here, this is if I were to have listed the house with a teammate. So sometimes you can co-list a property. Especially this happens a lot with luxury properties. There will be co-listing because sometimes luxury properties require an accompanied showing. And if that's the case, you need more than one of you available to meet up with people that want to view the home, because you're not available 24 hours a day. So right here, buyer represented by non-MLS agent. That means maybe the buyer was represented by an agent. It's a Texas real estate agent and they live in Austin and they're not a member of the Houston MLS. Maybe they're a member of the Austin Board of Realtors, but their mom moved down here and they wanted their commission and they wanted to act as the buyer's agent. Because they're in the state of Texas, they can do that, but they aren't in our MLS. So in this particular instance, this agent right here, her name was Tiffany. She is a Houston agent. She's a member of the Houston MLS, so this is irrelevant. If she was from a different MLS, we would put yes right here, and then we would put her Texas real estate license number right here. Next thing we do is we hit validate. what that's going to do is it's going to run everything we've entered. If everything looks good, it'll look just like this. You're not going to see any issues. However, if something was missing, let me just show you as an example. Let's say we were to leave this blank and hit validate. Uh-oh, it's going to show us a little red exclamation point. And what that means is you absolutely have to answer this box or it will not let you submit the listing. So anytime you're not sure about what's going on here, just hit validate and it will let you know what's missing. Once you hit validate again, you can validate as many times as you want. It will not finalize anything. All it's doing is letting you know that you're good to go. Once you validate and there are no red exclamation points, you're going to hit submit listing and you're done. So it says it's been successfully updated. That's the MLS number. And it typically, even with today's technology, it can take anywhere from 5 minutes to 2 hours, sometimes 4 hours for it to show in the system. So once you update this, if you go to let a client know it's been updated, tell them don't freak out, wait a few hours, we're checking. And sometimes it updates differently on the desktop, on the web browser on a desktop, it'll update quick. And then on the mobile app, sometimes it'll take many hours to update. So if you go in here right after you do this and you go check the listing, a lot of times it'll still say pending. Well, it showed sold instantly here, but sometimes on mobile it'll take longer. So, and that's that.